pay off your debt. Life insurance and business guidance. The VA has, in the last few years now, introduced, you can go to the VA and get some guidance on how to start up your own business or manage your own business. A lot of people carry them forward from when they were on active duty. It's called Servicemen's Group Life Insurance, SGLI. Other people can sign up afterwards. 100% disabled vet is entitled to $10,000 of life insurance with no premium, or $30,000 of life insurance with a small premium. Up to, but not beyond, age 65. You got to get signed up before age 65. Veterans Administration will pay compensation for service-connected disabilities. That means something must have happened while you were in service or has gotten worse following service time and must be supported and documented with medical evidence. For example, you hurt your wrist, ankle, knee while in service and it didn't really bother you that much, but now it's 40 years later and you are becoming more and more disabled. So you accumulate some medical evidence either through the VA healthcare system or through a civilian provider. Get it to someone like me and I'll submit the claim on your behalf. Doesn't have to be like me. Oh, you don't need to show Purple Heart or any awards like that to show that you're entitled to a disability. That's a frequent one. Well, I didn't get a Purple Heart, I guess I don't deserve something. You have to apply for compensation. There's 44 million names in the VA benefits administration, so they're not going to come find you. You have to go find them. Presently, there's still a pretty serious backlog at the VA. I get most of my claims turned in about 75 days, but this is what I do for a living. I know how to wiggle my way through the system. So it works best if the veteran gets all of the medical support information, him or herself, and includes it at the time of filing a claim with VA. Once a claim is in, this is called the fast track or a fully developed claim. Once the claim is in, if you add more evidence later on, you come off the fast track and you go to the, we'll get to it in a year. VA, you can tell the VA, well, you call Dr. Smith and Dr. Jones and get all my medical evidence. They'll do that, but you're going to talk about a year or more before your claim is reviewed and settled. Some people think that's good because the first check is going to have a year's worth of retroactivity. When a claim is filed, the VA stamps it, received on April 16th. And if they don't settle that claim until, I don't know, February of the next year, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, that's 10 months worth of retroactive pay. And if it's a big claim for more than $1,000 a month, that's a nice chunk of check. But it will add years to the claim resolution. I strongly encourage him to let me work with you. We'll get all your medical support and then we'll submit. Not every disability has to be a wing that doesn't work. It can also include psychological things. If you go to a VSO, sometimes you get a bald old man or you get a pretty lady. I'm not trolling for work, but Massachusetts is the only state in the union that requires a VSO, a veteran service officer, in every single community. Not necessarily full-time, but there will be somebody representing veterans in every single community. You can also use VSOs from the VA or service organizations. They also have trained service officers. Oftentimes, when a claim for disability is submitted, the VA will say, well, I need you to participate in a comp and pen exam, compensation or pension. In disability, that would be a compensation exam. They'll call you into a VA location, usually a VA location. Sometimes it's contracted caregivers in the general vicinity of where you live. And they'll interview you to confirm that what has been claimed in the submission is indeed true. This is partly the VA's fault. At the beginning of the current activity in Afghanistan and Iraq, they were handing out PTSD benefits, like after dinner mints. Just, oh, I got PTSD. Oh, here, take some money. Now the pendulum has swung the other way, and I contend some of the folks that do these comp and pen examinations, they must feel it's their job to save the VA money. Compensation is not throwing darts at a dartboard. It's determined by the Federal Register. If 38 CFR Part 4, if it were one volume, would be about 4 feet tall. It has a listing of every disease, disorder, dysfunction you've ever or never heard of. And the folks that go through this, go through the process of settling claims, have to go find exactly what it is. Let's say arbitrarily you had a bad wrist, and you and your doctor have determined you've lost, pick a number, 25% flexibility or usage of your wrist. So the claim settler will go through this and wrist, 75% functional, 25% non-functional, and that will tell them that's worthy of a claim, a benefit of X percent. And it tells them that exactly would be, 40% disabling. But truthfully, the quality of a claim is oftentimes the biggest deterrent to success. People that don't really think out the claim and don't provide the VA with enough proper information, they're oftentimes the ones that get bounced the quickest.
Mm-hmm.
I always ask my clients to prepare something called a statement in support of a claim. I just want a little paragraph. What happened and what are the implications? How has your quality of life been adversely affected by whatever we're claiming? So that when some poor claim reviewer in Snowball, Indiana or someplace, and there are 40 different places around the country that will review a claim, could review a claim, when they get it, they can see, oh, broken wrist while serving in the Navy, and now 30 years later it's gotten worse. Even that's enough to tell them, okay, that's what we're evaluating, let's go find the medical information to confirm that. It's not a requirement, but it sure makes it easier if you tell the people why we're filing this claim. This is a common question I hear. If the veteran dies first, his benefits are transferable to his spouse, right? Wrong. When the veteran dies, so too do his or her benefits. Remember, it's the Veterans Administration, not the spousal administration.
Yeah. It reminds me when I was in the service, said if the Marine Corps wanted you to have a wife, we would have issued you a wife.
That's right. When I complained about my knees from parachuting, if God wanted me to parachute, he'd give you one at birth.
Yeah.
However, under certain circumstances, Benefits can be provided to the surviving spouse, but they must be applied for. Remember, there's 44 million names in the VA. They're not gonna come find you. The veteran and spouse must be legally married as of the vet's death, and they have to be married for at least 1 year. I had a spouse call me. The veteran and the spouse got married 5 days before he died. He got a flag, she got a flag, and that's it. And she should have been entitled to about $1,600 tax-free a month. Spousal benefits. The vet dies first. He was 100% disabled, and he died of one of his VA-recognized disabilities. So she's entitled to a DIC, that's a dependency and indemnity compensation, and that's called a service-connected death. He died of one of his VA disabilities. If he got run over by a forklift at work after he got out of the service and had a bad foot, that's not a service-connected disability. Vet dies first, but wasn't 100% disabled, which is most vets. But he died of one of his disabilities. His surviving spouse gets the vet was declared permanently and totally disabled for a period of 10 years. And he died of something else. He accidentally fell off the cliff at the Grand Canyon. Or he went to bed and a dry cleaner bag accidentally went over his head. Because there was a 10-year period, the spouse is entitled to a larger amount. What does permanently and totally mean? That's a declaration by the VA that whatever this particular disability is never gonna get better. If he has, I don't know, ischemic heart disease, that isn't gonna get better. ALS, Parkinson's, they're not gonna get better. So the VA will declare somebody permanently and totally disabled. I don't understand, I'm not sure why the spouse is entitled to a larger amount. Maybe it's putting up with somebody that's in that condition for 10 years. 10 years makes the DIC automatic. You still have to file for it, but they don't debate it. Vet was not 100% disabled, and his death was not attributable to his military or her military service. In this case, maybe we'll look at a widow's pension. That's the last block we saw. What's a widow's pension? It's paid to the unremarried, low-income surviving spouse of a wartime veteran. The veteran did not have to be at war. He or she just had to be on duty, active duty, during a wartime period. Wow. Coming up on 30 years of Persian Gulf. Wow.
Yeah, I believe.
Surviving spouse has to be married to the vet for at least 1 year, and his or her assets must be less than $85,000, not counting the primary vehicle or the primary home. But it gets crueler than that. Widow's pension only pays $721 a month minus whatever offsets you have for other income. So if, we'll say the veteran was a male and the surviving spouse is a female, he dies first, and she's getting a Social Security check of $500. That would be subtracted from $721, so her benefit would be $221. Benefit. Remember before, it's Veterans Administration, not spousal. What if the mass veteran dies of one of his or her VA disabilities? If they're in a home and they're jointly, both names are on the deed or the mortgage, the surviving spouse is exempted from paying property tax. In West Boylston, they have to have lived in the home together for at least 5 years at the time of death. Although I'll whisper to you, that you can negotiate that in West Boylston. That's in addition to whatever the surviving spousal DIC, the $1,200 or $1,500 you saw earlier. The exempted from paying property tax.
Yeah, that's not bad, actually.
No, in this town, that can be $5,000 to $10,000 a year.
Yeah, yeah.
In other communities like Worcester, they double the property tax exemption. I live in Worcester, I'm not 100%, so I get $400 a year property tax, but because I live in Worcester, I get $800 a year.
So you should plan on moving to Worcester right before you die.
Yeah, no, 5 years.
Oh, 5 years.
No matter how the veteran died, the surviving spouse is eligible for some other stuff. A folded casket flag, no matter whether the remains are cremated, buried, or donated to science. You get the little flag. It's not a little flag, it's a casket flag. You can have a headstone, plaque, or grave marker medallion at no cost to the family. This isn't a great slide, but there's a flat marker that you'll see over at, what's the name of the cemetery here? Mount Vernon. You can get it in bronze, or you can get it in granite or white marble. Upright headstones, you have to clear that with a local cemetery. A niche plaque is for the cremated remains. That's a grave marker. If you have your own family stone, this thing can be affixed to a stone. Obviously, the different services can be represented. And it's about size of a grapefruit, maybe a cantaloupe.
Yeah.
Presidential proclamation or certificate looks like a college diploma or something, signed by the current president. If you don't like that, you can wait till the next president. That's true. You can't go backwards, though. I can't get you Reagan or Teddy Roosevelt, sir. Military honors can be included. It doesn't have to be Navy, Marines. That's the only picture I could find.
Good choice.
Tough day for you guys last week. 3 of them killed.
Yep.
There's a modest burial assistance payment for a regular death. If the veteran dies of one of his disabilities, they run that up to about $2,500. Also, depending upon where the veteran dies, the VA will pay for transportation of the body from point of death to a funeral home, and then from the funeral home to interment, or a cremation. I bring that up only because a couple of years ago I had a veteran die on the casino floor in Vegas, and they paid to get him back home. A veteran service officer like myself, or one of the guys at the various veterans clubs, can help with that, or usually the funeral parlor is pretty good about stepping up and asking if the family wants any of that. The surviving spouse, when the veteran dies, is eligible to collect the larger of the 2 Social Security benefits if they're both receiving that. but the surviving spouse has to notify Social Security. It doesn't happen automatically. Oftentimes, the funeral parlor is good about asking. And in some circumstances, Social Security will also throw a couple $100 toward. I don't understand how you get burial assistance on $200, but they do.
$255.
Is that what it is? Yeah. This is the fun part. If the veteran had been married for 10+ years and then got divorced, and then remarried, but the former spouse, if alive and not remarried, she gets his Social Security benefit, along with a current spouse. So John marries Mary. They're married 10+ years, and then John divorces Mary, and John marries Susie. Then John dies. Both Mary and Susie are eligible for his Social Security benefit if it's larger than their own. And it will not, they both can collect it, and it will not affect either one, meaning they don't have to split it, they each get the larger of the two.
Like a
Applications of
health
daily
aid,
living,
right?
yeah, yes. The VA won't provide you the person, they'll provide you some money to pay that person. Educational benefits, now, these have been changing. The post 9/11 GI Bill, now folks that are in the service can say, I'm not gonna need that, and they can give it to their kids. And the vocational education and retraining, that's the example they gave earlier, there's not too many jobs for riflemen. And VA home loans. Essentially, the VA says, you help this guy get a mortgage, and we, the VA, will guarantee you get paid no matter what, even if the 100% disabled vets. The vet is, if he's declared 100 by the VA, he's entitled to $3,000 a month tax-free. You don't have to tell the governor, you don't have to tell the president, for the balance of your life. Access to the various military bases, you can get a Department of Defense ID card, so you can go use the commissary and gasoline. If you're under age 65, you can get $10,000 of life insurance with no premium, or $30,000 with a little tiny premium. Unfortunately, you can't do it after age 65. And that's when a lot of the 100% vets begin to show up. You can get VA health coverage for spouse and children under a program called CHAMP VA. Civilian Health and Medical, something by the VA, CHAMP VA. Yeah, in Massachusetts, you get an annual property tax abatement of $1,000, and you get an annuity payment of $2,000 a year. The $2,000 tax-free annuity, the annuity is also tax-free. That's provided by the state of Massachusetts. All the other stuff is VA.
Well, I think if they're 100% disabled, they deserve it.
Massachusetts has been paying or having VA or veterans benefits since the end of the Civil War. Not at those numbers, but since the end of the Civil War. What about anything else for the veterans before the veteran's death? Aid in attendance for the veteran or the spouse or both of you. And in today's world, the spouse doesn't have to be a different gender. Aid in attendance can help supplement some of the costs associated with visiting nurses, home health aides, assisted living arrangements, or long-term care. Hopefully it's not long-term care, because that's frightfully expensive. The VA will provide some financial assistance, but the engagement of the providers is up to the family or the veteran. We talked about, a little bit ago, we talked about pension, what was called a non-service connected pension. In this case of aid and attendance, I have to apply for a pension for the veteran. Even if Bill Gates came here, I'd have to apply for a non-service connected pension, which they would deny, but then provide the aid and attendance. It's not standalone, it has to be part of the service, the non-service connected pension. And A&A is determined by medical need first. Usually the family comes to me and says, oh, it's killing us, it's $3,000 a month to keep Pop locked up. It's gotta be a medical need first. A doctor has to confirm to the VA that the ADL, activities of daily living, he's got 3 or more that he can't perform. He can't button his shirt, can't use the bathroom or the shower, can't feed himself, cook his own food. Those are activities of daily living. And the family can't have assets exceeding $124,600. That used to be $80,000. That does not include the residence, primary residence, or family car. But if you have another house at the Cape, we're gonna be in trouble. The other thing on a aid in attendance, the secret here is ongoing medical expenses, and that can include paying for assisted living, have to equal or exceed the income of the claimant, of the veteran. You say, I'll never get there. Yes, you will if you go into assisted living. And worse yet, if you go to a nursing home. Both the veteran or the spouse can get the aid in attendance. This takes, if it's done right, it takes about a week of earnest effort to prepare the claim, and then 2 to 3 months for it to be approved. They've just rewritten this law October 18th last year to go to this $124,600 value. I've done about 6 of these, and they're all in excess of 100 pages. Because we have to prove to the VA that income and assets and all that kind of stuff. It's good to do it now because everybody has fresh tax returns. If the veteran or the claimant wants to stay in their home, that requires that the VA come do an evaluation of the home. Effectively, they need to confirm that a bedroom and a bathroom are on the same floor. They don't want people that say they need assistance to have to change floors to use a bedroom or a bathroom. The doctor's sign-off is a medical necessity. Doctor's sign-off oftentimes takes longer than filling out the paperwork for the claim. What I recommend claimant, or when they come see me and talk about this, I say you fill out 90% of this thing and just have the doctor sign it. We can also get a healthy spouse named as a caregiver, and that will increase the financial benefit. But there is some record keeping required. It's not difficult, but it has to be done. If the person we're claiming aid and attendance for is either housebound or bedridden, that can add a few more dollars to the benefit as well. In this state, and only this state, there are also Massachusetts veteran benefits. Like it or not, you get a VSO, even if it's me. VSOs are hired based on the law that says every community must have one, but if the town is fewer than 12,500 people, it's a part-time job, and it's a negotiation between the community and the VSO as to the rate of pay. You can find VSOs at usually the town hall somewhere. We're here to help determine eligibility for medical and compensable benefits, and then help with the preparation and submission. And we can help recover and replace lost service records or medals. Or, you can't see that, but that's Elvis Aaron Presley's DD 214.
All right. So there's definitely a DD 214.
And these are the most commonly requested medals that I see. Now, mass benefits can include, DVS, Department of Veterans Services, is a state agency overseeing veteran care and have been doing so since the end of the Civil War. I think some of the people there actually fought in the Civil War. It's our job to assist with enrolling for state or federal benefits, housing assistance, job placement, coordinate with other social service providers as needed, funeral requirements, graves decorations for Memorial Day, and Memorial Day and Veterans Day remembrances. Oh, and advice regarding property tax and motor vehicle abatements. There are exclusion from paying motor vehicle excise tax, and something, registration fees, but you have to give up an eye or an arm. This is the boss, this is my boss. If you don't like the way somebody's treating you, that's the number you call.
Will someone answer?
Yes,
Okay.
that's the boss man's.
Yeah.
That's Mass Department of Veterans Services is a cabinet post. It's actually under health, what do they call it now? Health and Human Services. But we're trying to get him a full cabinet position. Mass benefits are income sensitive, meaning there are certain income maximums allowable for either a claimant or a family. If you qualify, you can get cash assistance, reimbursement of all out-of-pocket co-pays, and that includes premiums paid to Blue Cross or Tufts or whoever your health insurance people would be, and as well as pharmacy, doctors, eyeglasses, acupuncture, hearing aids, Medicare B reimbursed, that's now $135.50. Fuel assistance, it says in winter, but it's paid year round. And then we have to help people manage that money so they have something in the winter. Dental, optical, hearing aid, employment assistance, emergency home repairs. Your septic tank just decided it was full and doesn't work anymore. If you're a Chapter 115 beneficiary, we can do something for you. Although the benefits are available throughout the state, they have to be administered by the community of residents. Got 5 minutes left. So, in summary, these are the federal veterans benefits under health and VBA benefits and the cemetery administration. And the state pieces. As a veteran, you have earned the right to enjoy these benefits. Doing so does not affect the ability of others to also have access to benefits.